Hello, my name is Dave Rosenthal, and I'm here with my wife Ilona, and we would love to invite you to join us this coming May 2019 for our Holy Land tour to Israel to celebrate our 30th anniversary of Zion's Hope. It's a really special time, 30 years, can't believe it's been that long, but 30 years that the Lord has been so faithful to this ministry, and we can't think of a better place to celebrate than the land of Israel. We're also offering an optional pre-tour to Poland before the tour to Israel. And then after the tour, we're also offering a Servant's Heart extension. We'll break that down a little bit more for you in a couple minutes, but we just wanted to chat a little bit about some of the highlights of our trip and how excited we are, and we're so hopeful that you'll be able to join us. In Israel, we will be all over the country for about 9 days, and we'll be starting off in Jaffa and going up the coast. And I know, Ilona, you've been there so many times and have enjoyed it so much. What are some of the highlights for you, maybe Jaffa or Caesarea or some of the other places that we visit?
Well, it's just, it's an amazing place. Israel in general is an amazing place to go to, and you get to see so many various topographies and landscapes and architecture details and beautiful buildings, old and new. And when we start out in Tel Aviv and in Jaffa, you get to see the difference of the new Tel Aviv.
The skyline and the skyscrapers.
Yes, and new buildings, and then directly right next to the old, very ancient buildings in Jaffa. And it's just a fun place to stroll, whether during the day or at night on the, not a boardwalk, but what do they call it?
Kind of a promenade.
Promenade, that's it, yeah. So it's a beautiful place, and of course the Mediterranean Sea is gorgeous and just very fun.
Yeah, and it's such a scenic location, and so many biblical things took place there. From Jonah departing there on his running away from God, all the way to Simon Peter and his vision on the rooftop, and that takes us to Caesarea up the coast a little bit further, and the whole story of Cornelius, and what an amazing account that took place there. And of course the gospel from that city spread to the entire Gentile world after that time, so it was so significant. And we talk about the Apostle Paul in Caesarea, and from there we move up to Nazareth, and I know that's one of your favorite spots.
Absolutely, yeah. Nazareth is another amazing place, and we get to see a beautiful, gorgeous view from the Mount of Precipice, and you can talk more about that.
Yeah, the Mount of Precipice is the traditional site where after Jesus was teaching in the synagogue and reading from there, they sought to throw him over a hillside or a cliff. And the traditional site is the Mount of Precipice, but today when we go there, it's such an amazing view, a 360-degree view with Nazareth behind, and in front of you the entire Jezreel Valley. And of course, that's the site of the future Armageddon, where the final climactic battle of human history will take place. And we meet there together as a group. We'll have a time of devotion and share a little bit about the last days and the end times and events that will lead to that time. And it's just very impactful and such a beautiful spot to be able to see.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, and we move on to the Sea of Galilee and all of the biblical sites around the Sea of Galilee, and of course we take a boat ride across the sea, and normally we do that in the morning, and it's just a wonderful time of reflection on the Word of God and Jesus Christ and what He did in calling His disciples there, and it's peaceful and tranquil, and we'll sing some songs.
Sing and have some fun together.
Yeah, it's great. And from the Sea of Galilee on the boat, we can point out so many biblical places, like Magdala, where Mary Magdalene is from, and of course Capernaum on the North Shore, and so many other locations around there. The Galilee is always one of the highlights, I think, for everyone. And it never gets old. You know, I've been so many times, and you've been, but it never gets old. It's always fresh. And it's just one of those things when you open the pages of Scripture after you get home, the visions, the places that you've been to just come back afresh in your mind each time. From there we go down the Jordan Valley, and the topography changes really significantly when you're coming from the lush green Galilee area, moving down lower, 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 all the way to the Dead Sea, right? The lowest spot on the face of the earth.
Very dry.
And to have a float in the Dead Sea is always fun for people, kind of a unique experience, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we ascend Masada, and Masada is right on the shores of the Dead Sea. And of course, that's such an impactful experience to go up to the top of Masada and hear our local guides recount the story of the Roman siege.
Very moving.
Yeah, the Roman siege against the Jewish people that were up on top. It's very impactful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Then we move up to Jerusalem, and Jerusalem is always the highlight. It's so many things to see in Jerusalem of biblical significance. One of my favorites is spending a morning on the Mount of Olives and just seeing the city as the sun comes up behind us from the east, and all of a sudden the domes of Jerusalem just kind of come to life. And it's a beautiful spot. Usually we get a group photo together with everyone. And you'll meet so many wonderful people on the trip. That's one of the special things about going with Christians to the land of Israel, is you just get to really get to know people, and you share those experiences together. And many of the people who come with us on tour become friends for life. And while we're in Jerusalem, of course, we'll see so many important sites. We'll visit the Garden of Gethsemane, and we'll visit the Western Wall, where devout Jewish people come to pray. Of course, we'll see the Temple Mount. We'll stand on the steps that lead up to the Temple Mount area, and we'll talk about the implications of that and some of the future things that we believe will be taking place in the city of Jerusalem. We also visit the Garden Tomb, and usually we save that for the last day, just because it's so impactful and so meaningful.
Beautiful too. It's more peaceful than some of the other places. If you think about it, it's still in the middle of a old city that's very built up, very congested,
Bustling
and noisy, and yet you get into that garden and it's beautifully kept by those that are in charge of it. And so spiritually, there's a place where you can actually find peace and quiet and reflect on what the Lord has done for us.
So it's just a fantastic experience. I hope that you'll be able to join us for this time in Israel. We're really looking forward to it. Again, celebrating the 30th anniversary of Zion's Hope. It's really a special time. My father, Marv Rosenthal, will be with us, and we're looking forward to a great time of fellowship together. We'll be staying in great hotels, well located. We'll have a wide variety of food. Our guides that are with us are personal friends of ours that we've used in the past, and they just do a fantastic job of giving us so much of the historical detail. I'll be teaching on location at various places, as well as my dad and some of our other Zion's Hope staff here as well will be joining us. So it's really going to be a wonderful time. But I also want to take a moment to share with you a little bit of the detail about our optional pre-tour to Poland. And I must say that my wife is originally from Poland, and she moved to the United States when she was 12. So it's near and dear to us, and she's taken me there several times to Poland. What an amazing and beautiful country. But we're not just inviting you to join us because it's near and dear to our hearts. We think you're going to love it. Poland is truly a surprise for people who maybe have not investigated too much about the country itself and really don't know how much history there is, and particularly Jewish history in Poland. We will be visiting there for about 4.5 days, and we have personally put together the schedule. And we'll be about half the time in Krakow, and then the other half of the time we will be in Warsaw. But while we're in Krakow, we're going to be seeing some amazing things. We'll be in the Old City to start with, and tell them a little bit about the Old City and the flavor and the kind of things that you'd see in what you call Stare Miasto, which is the Old City in Krakow.
It's beautiful. It's many people have heard of Prague, and Krakow is like a twin city to Prague, and stunning architecture, and much of it was well preserved because it was not destroyed during World War II, unlike Warsaw. So much of what you would see is original. The king that invited the Jewish people to come to Poland gave them land, and so they the part where they settled was the first part where they settled was named after the king, and so that is the old quarter of Kazimierz. That's the Polish pronunciation.
Otherwise known as Kazimierz.
Yes, and it's had a revival. It's a very vibrant, exciting part of Krakow. There are wonderful restaurants and just cultural places that give you the Jewish flavor, the European Jewish, and also some of the Middle Eastern Jewish flavor.
So we'll be visiting the old city of Krakow and all of its beauty with its cathedrals and castles. The Wawel Castle is amazing, a beautiful castle right in kind of the center of old Krakow. We'll be seeing some of the beautiful cafes, and it's very vibrant and festive. And we'll be visiting the Jewish quarter, Caesarea, which is very vibrant and exciting and revived. We will be visiting one evening. We'll be going into an old Jewish home in the Kazimierz Jewish district of Krakow, and we'll be having dinner. It's been converted into a restaurant, and you hear the klezmer music, which is the Jewish famous music from that time period and that era. And so it's really going to be an enjoyable time. We're going to be also going to the Oskar Schindler factory, which has now been turned into a museum. And we'll also, of course, be visiting Auschwitz. And I know many people, they hear that and they know, oh, how significant it is, and it's hard to even think possibly of visiting a Nazi death camp. But I have to tell you, when we visited, it was one of the most impactful things I've ever done. It was difficult, it was very emotional, but I was so educated by it, I was so moved by it. It was kind of, when we left after a few hours, I was kind of in shock and awe. But I have to tell you, it's one of the most worthwhile things that I think I've ever done. So important to give you the framework, the history, and some of the details of what it was like for the Jewish people under Adolf Hitler in a Nazi death camp. And as difficult as it was, it's so worthwhile. And I encourage each of you, if you're thinking about it, don't let that stop you. It should encourage you all the more to go, because from the challenges and the difficulties and the horrors that took place there and in other death camps, there is triumph coming for the Jewish people. And we want to not only look at the triumph, we look at the tragedies, but we see both in perspective. And we want this trip to help you get a better sense of the history of the Jewish people, what they went through, and the triumph that awaits them, of course, when Jesus Christ returns as King of Kings and Lord of Lords to Jerusalem. While we're there, we're also going to visit the Velichka salt mine, which is really unusual, a special place where you go down into the earth to an actual salt mine, some of the freshest, best air that you can imagine.
Which is sort of, you wouldn't think that you're going under
Yeah.
you know, the ground, but yeah.
And the people who were involved in developing the salt mine got very creative, and they were very artistic, and they carved some amazing sculptures down under the earth in a salt mine. So it's really something unusual that you won't see anywhere else in the world.
Even a chapel, and do you remember the large hall where you can actually rent it
For a wedding.
special occasions and weddings, and
a salt crystal chandelier.
Yes,
Yeah.
just amazing to see.
So from there, we'll be moving on to Warsaw, to the old city of Warsaw, Stare Miasto, which in Polish means old city, and beautiful, colorful. It was rebuilt because much of it was destroyed during the war, but rebuilt in its authentic style, colorful cafes, and just a beautiful place to walk through. We'll also be visiting the Łazienki Park and Gardens, which is a beautiful, stately park in Warsaw, with sculptures and museums.
For the royalty, too.
Right, right. And then, of course, you can't go to Warsaw if you're interested in history and important history without visiting the Warsaw Ghetto, where we'll get a real sense of what it was like, the difficulties for the Jewish people who were living during that time, and the hardships that they faced, and some of the remarkable stories connected to the Warsaw Ghetto. We'll also be visiting the Warsaw Synagogue while we're there, and the Poland Museum of Jewish History. Tell them, if you would, just a minute about the Poland Museum.
It's very different than you would go to Auschwitz, for example. So it's more of the celebration of the Jewish, of the very large Jewish population that lived in Poland for many centuries, and their culture and their achievements, and and it's architecturally is also very unusual, very unique. On the outside, there's one very modern sort of a look,
And it
more
was also
austere, I would say. And then on the inside, I won't reveal, but it's a completely different look on the inside as you walk in, if you remember. And we were just in awe. We didn't think that it was possible to transition from looking one way on the outside and then going in.
totally different on the inside.
Totally different, but it goes back to the land of Israel.
Well, we're excited about Poland too, and if it's something new to you, really consider it, because you will not be the same person after seeing some of those things. Very, very moving, and an exciting time, and a beautiful place to visit.
Too.
And great food, and great food. Also, as a post-tour to our Israel trip, Poland is a pre-tour. We have a post-tour offering after the tour for an additional 3 days to our Servant's Heart Volunteer Ministry Program. It's a wonderful opportunity to work alongside Zion's Hope staff in Israel. We'll be there as part of that as well. And we're there to bless the people of Israel through a variety of ministry service projects. If you're familiar with our ministry, you know that we usually select about 8 or 9 different ministry projects to be involved in. We raise funds for those, and then we have the opportunity on the ground in Israel with our staff to really see those things through, and to participate with partner ministries and with our missionaries as well, to be able to really touch people in a profound way. And we always go over thinking we're going to do the work, and we do the work, and we're there, and it's hard work, and it's a labor of love, but we always come back feeling like we were more blessed than what we gave. And that's just an amazing, amazing feeling. So we encourage you to join us for our tour to Israel, for our pre-tour to Poland. That's optional if you'd like to join us for that as well. You can just do the Israel tour by itself, or you can join us for the pre-tour and or the post-tour if you'd like for the Servant's Heart Ministry Service, and that's a volunteer program as the post-tour. If you have any further questions, my wife is reminding me to make sure that you go online to www.zionshope.org, where you can see our brochure online, and you can make your reservations directly through our website in connection with Noseworthy Travel, which is the organization that's working with us to take your reservations. Okay,
so if anyone has any questions, we encourage them to call us, and even before they register, or even after, if they have any questions, to please contact us, and we'll try to help them find the right answers.
Sounds good. So thank you so much again. We wish you all the best, and we hope to see you in May.
Thank you.